Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, or just welcome if you're new. My name is Eboni Harris, and my name is Eboni Harris, and I'm a relationship therapist based in Houston, Texas. It has been busy, busy, busy. It is only 1 week into March, and I've been busy. I actually just got back from Austin, Texas, where I was me and my business partner were keynote speakers for a conference, which was fun and amazing and really a good time. And it's really like continue to help us acknowledge like the work that we're doing and to want to continue to do this work around helping people understand the value of mental health and therapy, but also understanding the value of Black and Brown mental health therapists, and especially helping to make sure everyone is anti-racist and is actually helping our community. So that was what that was about. But today is week 1 of the accountability group. I'll kind of explain a little bit more about this because this video will live on YouTube, at least for a little bit. I will have 4 videos that are specifically for YouTube, and then I will have the rest of the accountability group will be off of YouTube. So, so this is the first week. I'm really, really excited. I have been working really hard to try to get this done and ready and going. Excuse me, sorry. My skin is feeling okay. Knowing that this is something that is very much something I've needed, and I have grown my business. I have been successful in my business. I have met a lot of different goals with both of my businesses as well as my personal life. But accountability is one of those things that I know helps you get to your goals a lot quicker and a lot faster, right? And so I have been wanting to do an accountability group. I have done a few different ones that have started and stopped for different reasons. And so I just decided, you know what, instead of me just focusing on people that I know personally or people that I've met, business people, business minded people, I wanted to open this up to my community. I wanted to open this up to people that happen to stumble across my page, people that would have wanted to work with me, but because I don't live in their state, they can't. And just people that are interested in meeting goals and are continuing to struggle year after year. I started this in March mainly because I thought about doing it at the beginning of the year, but because my first quarter of the year is so busy and I'm really trying to like shift some stuff, I didn't think that would be a good time for me to start it. But also because I know that at the beginning of the year, a lot of people have momentum, right? A lot of people have this desire um, to change their year and have the best year of their life, right? And typically by March, even earlier than that, people have let that go, right? And so I was like, you know what? My beginning of the year is a little too busy for me to not have planned it as earlier. I would have needed to have planned it like in October, November. I actually was planning something kind of similar with another person, and I'm sure we'll end up just kind of merging the two. But again, life was happening, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do it then. But I feel like this is a good time because people who have lost their momentum or who aren't sure like why are they struggling, this will be a good group for them to join. And so it's not going to be just other business people I know. This is anything that you have that you want to get done this year, any goals you have, whether it's business, personal, whatever. I'll be here to help guide. I'll be here to hold you accountable, and also that helps me hold myself accountable, right? And so I'm really excited to get started with it. I actually, like I said, was going to start something kind of similar, but not quite as intense as this is, with a friend of mine. And hopefully by the end of this year, next year, we'll be joining forces. And so next year to be a whole different thing. But I decided just to do it as an individual and do it part of my practice, my private practice, to allow a space for people to come. It's free. You can join. All you have to do is be here. And specifically, I want people that are getting through the pre-work, right? I think it's extremely important that people kind of get the pre-work done, which is why these videos will be live, because I need to stop hitting this microphone. This will be the pre-work. So let me explain who this group is for. I am specifically marketing Black and Brown women, right? Just because that is typically the people that reach out to me and have seen me across social media. That is typically the people that are searching for these type of groups. And I'm a Black woman, and so it is important to me that I am continuing to lift up other Black women and help other Black women, even if I can't do it in my private practice. It is for people that are looking for accountability, that is looking for a group of women that will support and safe spaces to talk about their difficulties and vulnerabilities and things like that. We'll go into one of my values, but it is safety. And so that is extremely important to me, that people have a safe space to talk about these topics, as well as anyone who just is feeling like, I just want to have a space where I can come and do a little bit of work, get some stuff done, and get some of my goals done. And I know that they'll be there every week, right? And so that is who this is for. If you feel like you've struggled, if you want to set goals, or if you, even if you meet your goals, that you're like, you know what, I know that I can get there a lot quicker with a group, with other like-minded people, then this is a group for you. So if you haven't already, the people that have signed up got the live link to this. If you haven't already, you can sign up through the link in the chat box. You can just click, fill out your information, name, email, the basics. Because after these first 4 weeks, then we'll be moving into a private group that won't be live on social media. So, so you need to make sure you sign up so that you can join that group once we move off of YouTube Live. So, just a little bit, obviously, not obviously, but also there is a workbook that I created. I've talked about this in my other goal setting videos. I created this workbook. It has been something that has been on my heart to create for a while. I think specifically because it's something that I needed, right? And so I'll be using a workbook. Let me see. I don't even know if you'll be able to see it. I don't need y'all to judge my iPad. I did not buy this iPad. This was a gift to me and I broke it. And so I haven't went and got it fixed. And at this point, I don't think I am. I've been saying for about since pre-COVID that I was going to get it fixed and I never did. So, I think this is just how the iPad's going to look. So let's just go with that. I literally only use it for notes with clients, which I haven't been using it for that lately. I actually been doing my notes in another way, and for digital like calendars, digital workbooks, things like that. So I just wanted to share that this is how I will be doing the notebook. Ooh, it looks so bad on camera. Ignore the cracks. But this is how I'll be doing it. So there are lots of ways for you to use digital content. If you haven't had it before, typically you can like download the PDF. You can print it out if you want to. You can also, a lot of times in Adobe or PDF Reader, you can go in and type in things. I use Notability because that's something I've just used for my business and I've had it on my iPad forever. I use it to take notes. And so anytime I have any digital products like a digital calendar, digital planner, or a workbook like this, I put it in. Oh, the sun is. It either is the glare from the sun, or you see all the cracks. Ignore the cracks. It still works perfectly. But I use Notability to get through. Hello. Oh, I know what's that. Oops. Pressing the wrong button. Okay, there we go. To do my stuff. So this is the workbook that I have worked on, and it is literally what we'll be talking about. It is on here. Ooh, I don't like the way that. Oh, it hasn't finished downloading. That's why it looks like that. It will be on here for you to. That's what I'll be using because it's what we're talking about, but it's in an organized way versus just doing it in a journal. You can do it in a journal. That is perfectly fine, but I wanted to use this because it's a lot easier. I actually am eventually going to get some of these printed if people want to buy it and have an actual physical copy. But for right now, I just wanted to get started. And this is the reason why I created this is because it's not about having to have it at the beginning of the year. I feel like so many planners are dated and very specifically, you got to get started at the beginning of the year. And while that is, ideal, of course, if that's what you want to do, this one is really about, you can reset your year at any time, right? You could choose a Wednesday on the 14th of March and decide that's when you're going to reset your year. It's set up so that you can start this anytime. So there aren't any specific dates or anything in it. And like I said, it really is there to keep track and have you kind of hit these milestones in a certain order so that you can get that momentum, right? So this is the workbook. So I'm going to, it's this one. This is a shorter version. I created a very long one, which if you download it, you'll get the long version that has 4 different blocks of time that you'll be focusing on getting to your goals. This one is a shorter one, so it only has 1 block of time for the first set of goals. And then that's just because I knew that I was using this for this class and I didn't want to have to download the 150 page one that I've created for you guys to download. So if you go to the link in the description, you can actually get the full one that has block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, which is the different sprints that we're going to do. We do 12-week sprints to meet our goals. So that is a little bit about it. So and so let me go ahead and explain before we jump into what we're doing today, what you can expect in this workbook. So like I said, this kind of is my little manifesto or my little intro to the book about what the point is and why I thought it was important and why I like to do the 12-week sprints. It's based on the book, The 12-Week Year. So feel free to check out that book. I always want to reference where I get these ideas from. But a lot of this is based on just what I've done across different notebooks. Like I'll have one notebook that's like all of my intentions and values and my thoughts and things like that. And then another notebook that's specifically for my goals and my plans. And then another notebook that's my to-do list. And so this is just a way to put it all in one. And so we start with talking about intentions, which we'll discuss today, values and vision, which are the ones that we will focus on today. And then after you finish that, then we go into what blocks comes up when you're thinking about this vision that you desire. What blocks come up when you are saying, okay, this is what I want my life to look like. What comes up for you that makes it difficult for you to even envision it, right? What may come up for you as you're planning, right? Because we want to be aware of the blocks and the obstacles that may come and have a plan to overcome that. And so the next time we get together, we'll focus on the blocks and we'll focus on identifying what are our goals for the year. Yes, for a full 52 weeks or the rest of the year, however you want to do it, as well as identifying your top goals that you're going to have set, that you're going to set. And then the week after that, we break down those goals that we're going to focus on for the first sprint and we put them in weeks and plan. And then the last week we'll continue to plan and then we'll do some like a study session to make sure that we're set up for the next week. And then we do a little bit of a celebration before we jump into our first 12-week sprint. So that is the plan. That is how this is set up. That is how this is set up. So like I said, you have your all your goals and you only should pick like 10 because I feel like sometimes we say I want to have 50 things done by the end of the year. I say pick 10 because again, we're going to break them down into 12-week sprints. And so for those sprints, you only want to pick 3, right? I say even doing 1 or 2 may be better. And then we'll go to the goals and then break those down and all of that. So that is what the planner is for, but that is what we'll be doing in this group. So regardless if you have the planner or not, if you just have a journal, it works perfectly fine. But if you want the planner, the link will be in the description. It's only $5. You can give more. It's a pay what you want, but the minimum is $5 just because, it took some time and effort to put this out there. And, I'm curious about feedback and I really want this to be an interactive group where people can kind of let me know like, hey, I got to this page. It really didn't work. Can you fix this? Right. So that's why I kept it so cheap because I want people to like experience it, play with it, write in it, use it, and let me know what works for them and what doesn't. And I'm just really excited. This is one of those things that has, like I said, been on my brain and I've been wanting to do. And so finally I was like, just do it. People will show up the more that you show up for yourself. And so that is what I'm doing right now. Okay, so let's go ahead. I won't go through the whole thing page by page because we're going to be doing that over the next 4 weeks. But let's go ahead and talk about what the first thing we're going to do today. So if we are in week 1, and you don't have to do it all today, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time during the live or in these videos kind of going through it just because if you're watching this, you can pause it or you can do it later. I just want to make sure we're spending some time to talk about what each of these things are and how you need to pick your own and what that looks like. And then I'll share what I have so far. So setting intentions, we want to make sure we're setting intentions. When I set intentions, I set intentions for the year. So I typically do that over resolutions. I have intentions for the year. This is something that I want to work on. This is something that I want to master. And so these typically change. My intentions typically change year by year. I think last year was consistency and discipline, which was probably the same for the 2 years. And then this year I have 2 different ones. So how do I choose my intentions? I really look at what areas I find myself, give me a second. Okay. I really look at what areas I find myself struggling in, right? Like when it comes to me meeting my goals, when it comes to me having the life I want, where do I struggle? And it fluctuates a lot of times. Like I said, in the past, it's been consistency and discipline have been those 2 things. But the more I think about it, there are things I'm consistent in. There are a lot of things that I'm consistent in. It's just some stuff fall by the wayside. And what I've learned is I have to take stock into, is that because this no longer serves me? Is there a block there? Or is it you're just making excuses and you need to jump back in it, right? But those were things that I really struggled with a lot. And so as I've gotten more and more comfortable with showing up for myself, which is to me is what consistency means, discipline meaning I'm going to push myself a little bit further when I don't feel like doing it, right? Those kind of go hand in hand. So as I've gotten more comfortable with that and showing up even here, like I've been on this live almost every single week, except the week I believe I was sick. I have been on here. Even if no one shows up, I am showing up because I know that there are people that need this. And I know I watch people watch it afterwards, right? People check in and look at the lives afterwards and they get the information. But I also want to build a space where if someone wants to come and talk to a therapist, if someone wants to have an interaction with a therapist and just learn more about the process and all of that, I want to be here for them if they so choose. If not, then we'll just be here, just me and you, or me and you watching it later until, I feel like this no longer serves what I need to do, right? Until I find a different way to serve those communities. So intentions is, what do you want to do? How do you want to show up in every aspect of your life, right? How do you want to show up for your goals? How do you want to show up for your family? How do you want to show up for the people that you care about? How do you want to show up for yourself? Right? That is your intention. And so I have already kind of picked my intentions just because I picked them at the beginning of the year. And so, but I do give some examples in here of intentions. Like you can have a sentence, a statement, or you can have a word. And so some statements that you might have is, I want to be kind to everyone I meet. I want to be a positive influence in your community. I want to be a good listener and offer helpful advice. I want to take responsibility for my actions, right? Those are some of the statements. And then some words might be, like I said, I had discipline and consistency, love, intuition, compassion, all of those things. So for me, I'm going to set my two intentions, and then I'm going to write down why those are my intentions. So my first intention is intuition. And intuition, it was really like intuition slash trusting myself, but I like doing words instead of sentences or anything like that. But trusting self. And I say trusting self, I've explained this in another video, so you can be happy to go watch that. I probably went in a lot more detail, but I chose intuition and trusting self is because, again, just like with this, I often have these feelings and these desires and these like, this feels like what I should be doing, and I will push back because it's like, oh, but it's going to take me so much work to get there, right? Or the planning stage is going to be so much, or whatever the case may be. And sometimes I talk myself out of things that really feel like they align with who I am and what I want to do. And sometimes I don't trust myself when it comes to different situations. Some areas I'm really good at listening to my intuition, right? I talk a lot about dating and choosing the right person and attraction and all of that. I trust myself fully when it comes to that, when it comes to relationships, friendships, romantic, anything like that. But there are some areas, like when it comes to business, when it comes to fitness and wellness and things like that, that I don't fully trust myself. And so that is something that I want to be intentional about. When I make decisions, I want to tap into, does this align with who I am? Does this feel like something I should be doing? And or if I feel something welling up inside of me, an idea, a goal, then I want to do that. And I want to be intentional about living my life in a way that I am trusting myself and trusting that any nudge I get in a direction, I can explore it. And if I change my mind about what I want that to look like, I can also change my mind. I always give myself permission to change my mind. That has been a ongoing goal of mine since very young, because I understand as you grow and as you learn, you can change your mind. So I want to move with intention. I want to move based on my intuition. I want to move based on what feels right to me. And that is me trusting myself. And also, if it's time for me to move on, I will trust that as well. Okay. My other intention for the year is vulnerability. That's what it was. Vulnerability. So this may be surprising because I am a therapist, but I am really, really good at holding space for other people. I'm really, really good at holding space for my clients, for friends, for family, for the people I care about, for strangers. People will just talk to me just because, I don't know. Sometimes they know I'm a therapist, but sometimes people just, I don't know if it's just my aura or what, but people will just be like, oh yeah, I want to have a conversation with you. So I am really good for holding space for other people, but I'm not the best at holding space for myself and my emotions. And I'm not the best at being vulnerable. And I say that even though I often show up authentically, I will show up authentically. I will show up as I am, but it's not as vulnerable as far as like being in touch with my feelings or being honest around my feelings, or, just being um honest in things that people may be able to use against you at some point, right? Being honest and vulnerable in area, because vulnerability is really sharing something that could possibly be used against you at another time. And it's funny because the more I'm sharing online, I'm not sharing anything really personal because that's just not my platform, outside of when I was doing my vlogs, and I might get back into that sooner or later. But I'm not necessarily sharing anything extremely personal. But even in me sharing my ideas, right? And I feel like I struggle with that sometimes. And me sharing my ideas, I still can get feedback when people like, no, that's dumb. Like it's so interesting. The more I've been sharing just random videos from like the past, like share clips from it, the more I've been doing that, the more I feel like people have been um, just leaving little like criticisms or little comments that's like, you could have just kept scrolling, all right? And so I understand that as you get more authentic and as you get more vulnerable, that's a part of it. And I'm okay with it. I do handle it pretty well. But I think there is a part of me that struggles with that vulnerability. And so this piece, this accountability group is me being more vulnerable, right? This is me sharing while I have been able to meet all of these goals. I do feel like I need a community to help me and I want to be able to help other people as well. And so those are my two intentions for the year. And I put three on there. If you want to put three, you can. I typically just choose two. And I've already kind of explained what it is, but there is space. I want you to, after you write your intentions, if you're using a workbook, there's space there. If not, just in your journal, write down how you would define it, right? Because I'm really big on the definition that everyone has doesn't mean that's the definition for you. And sometimes we choose these intentions and we don't even know what it fully means for us, right? And so if you need to like do a little bit of Googling, like what is this word? Like I feel like that's what I should be doing, but what does it really mean? And then also taking time to do it for yourself and to define it for yourself so that you have clarity on this is why I chose that. And it doesn't matter what it means for anybody else. I chose this for me and this is how I define it. And this is what it's going to look like. Okay. Let me take a quick water break because I'm going to be talking for a second today. All right. So the next part that we're going to work on is going to be, all right, is going to be our values. So your values, to me, these don't change for me, right? And they may shift, and maybe I'll pick another one, but I feel like these are typically your value in like, what are your values in life? What do you hold your beliefs? What are your beliefs based in? Um, what is extremely important to you when it comes to like your life and what your purpose is and what your goals are? What is important to you, right? And I think it's extremely important to know your values because again, we want to have goals and we want to have a vision for our life that aligns with who we are, right? And if you don't know what your values are, how will you know that this aligns with you and what you value and what's important to you, right? And so I have again, if you want to, I know I keep talking about the workbook. You truly don't need the workbook. It just makes it so much easier because I try to put everything in here so you don't have to like go Google and things like that. But I have a list of values that is in here, but you can just go to Google and type values, life values, and you can find random lists that are on there. You might even this list. But I want you to go through and really figure out what your values are. And so the way that I did this the first time I did it, and I think it was great, is I just went through and kind of either highlighted the ones that I liked or crossed out the ones that I felt like weren't good for me. I probably feel like if you're doing a list like this, crossing it out may work. But if you're not doing a list like this, if you just have it on Google, then you might want to write down the ones that resonate with you, right? What words, what values resonate with you and who you see yourself as and who you want to be, right? Because sometimes we have these values, but we're not living life in that way. And so you want to identify your values so that we can start to shift so you're aligning with who you are, right? So if you have this list, I would just take a pen and go through and cross out the ones that don't work for you. You can highlight the ones that do, but the problem is you're gonna have to keep dwindling it down. And so unless you have like three different ways to highlight it, maybe you got three different highlighters that you can do. It might be hard. So you might highlight one, circle the next one, star the next one, whatever. So, but either write it down or highlight the ones that work for you that you feel like resonate with you. And then what you're gonna do is keep halving that list until you get to three. So go through the list, pick the ones that work, or either X out the ones that don't. Now look at the ones that you have left over, and then go through that list, X out the ones that's like, not quite. This one actually works better. Da da da. And then as you start to dwindle it down, when you get like to 5 or 10, you want to start putting them head to head, right? So looking at one value and another value and saying, okay, which one of these resonates more with me, right? And if they both do, you put it to the side, but you only can do that so many times, right? But you want to continue to put them head to head, or pick one and have it go head to head with a few of them and pick which one resonates more. And then you end up with a short list. 3 is the goal, right? Of your values. This will help you identify what leads you, what values do you have that you want to make sure that you're continuing to show up for in this way. You want to make sure that like when you make decisions, it is based on your values and not the values of others. So I will share my values. Again, this is something that has not changed for me. So this is a lot easier. And this is why I wanted to do this. This is why this is live instead of it being in a personal group, because some of this stuff I already have, and I think some of this stuff you have to kind of take some time and sit with it, which is why I wanted to have this public, so you can come back and watch the video, you can pause it, all of that stuff. So my 3 values, again, this is in a previous video. I think I can link it. I'll probably end up linking it, but my 3 values are relationships. Put that down. And I use my little stylus pen, but if you have Notability or any note taking app, typically you can even type it in if you want to. But I know that our brains retain information as written in a different way, which is why I like to write down my goals and things like that. So even if it's digital, I still like to write it down. You don't have to do that, but it will impact your brain differently when you write things down. It's just scientifically there. There's research around how the strokes in shift the way your brain takes in information, and when you write down your goals, even if you never look back at it, you will remember them, or it's more likely that you'll meet some of them. So as far as my values, the first one is relationships, and I'll explain it as I write. Let me make that smaller because I want to write big. Come on. I need new styluses. It's not the cracks. It's not the cracks, I promise. I need new stylists. I buy these little cheap ones. I never got an Apple Pen. I don't buy Apple products. People give me Apple products. I had a little pen, but that's not working. I never had an Apple Pen, but these are like $6 for like 15 or something like that. And so I just use these, and then if they go off, I just throw them away, and then I just pick up another one and use that. So that's how that works. So relationships, for me, again, there is space for you to define it, but if you don't define it, that's perfectly fine. Just use it. Just use your journal and define it. Again, once you get down to your 3, it's very important that you define them. And that's how I was able to get to my 3, right? Because I knew that there were some that could be the same, but I typically went a little bit broader. And so that's how I picked my values, because I knew with my definition I could work on these 3. So relationships is number 1. Again, I'm a therapist. So as a therapist, it is extremely important that I know how to build relationships. It's extremely important that I know how to create. I'm about to move ahead. I know how to build relationships. I know how to talk to people and engage with people and help people want to share and open up, and that I share and open up. And so that is part of my career, but also in my personal life, my relationships are extremely important to me. I know that we are social people. I am actually an introvert, which is a surprise to some people, but I am actually an introvert. And so my relationships with my family and friends are extremely important to me, because those are my safe spaces. And so building relationships, maintaining relationships is really a big deal to me. And it is a big part of who I am. And so this is why I work with couples, right? Because I love helping couples figure it out. I love helping couples get to a space where they're happy in their relationships. I work with individuals because I feel like that I like to help people kind of understand more about themselves so that they can be happy in these relationships. But I also just feel like as social beings, it's extremely important that we keep community, right? That we have people around that are important to us. And so, that is how I define relationships. It's a part of my work, but it's also a big part of my personal life. And even though and also be understanding more about my own love languages and how that shows up in my relationships, platonic and romantic, is extremely important. I know that I am a low maintenance friend. That's a term that I've heard used in the past couple of years. I'm a very low maintenance friend. As long as when we get together, we can have a good time, we can have good conversation, and we are both comfortable, then I don't have to talk all the time. I have people that don't live here, so we tend to talk more often, but even with them, we talk on the phone maybe once or twice a month. And some people I talk even less than that, but we have full conversation for hours at a time where we do catch ups and all of that. And that's that. I am more of an in-person friend. And so when I'm meeting new people, or if I'm building relationships, like getting them in person and getting to know them in that setting is good for me, because I prefer to spend quality time. That is my love language in romantic relationships and personal relationships. I am a quality time person. When my dad was alive, I would go visit him once a week, just go sit with him for an hour. We would never really talk on the phone or anything like that. So I know that for me, in-person relationships is important, right? And so that is one of my values. It's just I value relationships so much that I made a career out of it, right? My second value is safety. So again, I am a therapist, so safe spaces is extremely important to me. I'm writing that down. And I want to make sure that I am always in a safe space, and I want to make sure that people that encounter me in any type of way know that they're in a safe space. So I do this with my speaking engagements. I do this with my therapy room. I do this with friends. I do this with strangers. This is why people talk to me. I do this when I am and stuff like this, right? This is a safe space. And this is part of the reason why, even though I have like live chat on when I do my lives, I make sure to not save it because I want people to know that whatever you share, although if somebody's on, of course they can see it, but after the fact, it's not going to be there for everybody to see because I want you to feel safe in coming in here and having these conversations, even though it is live, right? So safety is extremely important to me. Having a safe space to have conversations, to share vulnerabilities, right? To talk about deep, difficult topics. All of that is extremely important. And I even think about it now as I've this year, I've been really pondering, like, I want to do a lot more deep work, meaning I want to put time to the side to be able to kind of sit with my thoughts and my ideas and really like flesh them out. And whether that's books or talking or whatever, I want to be able to do that more often. And so, even with that, I feel as though I need to create safe spaces for myself, right? That means I need to like make sure I have safety as far as like what's happening in my business so I can take a break, what's happening in my personal life so I can be by myself. Like just making sure that I'm always feeling safe in my body, safe in my environment. And I do the same thing for other people, right? So safety is extremely important to me. That is one of my core values. And then my other core value, my last core value is freedom. Freedom. Freedom for me means I am free to make the decisions I want to make. I am free to live the life I want to live. I am free to spend money the way I want to spend it. I am free to eat what I want to eat, right? Freedom is like, and I think it was because I grew up in a strict, not extremely strict, I've heard stories, not extremely strict, but a pretty strict household. My parents stayed on top of us to make sure we did what we were supposed to be doing. And when I got older, it was kind of like they got me to like 18 and then the freedom was just like, all right, we trust you, do what you got to do, right? They would still check in and all of that type of stuff, but there wasn't a lot of like hovering. And so then all of a sudden, like, it was like, oh my God, I have this freedom. Thank goodness it didn't like go to an extreme in a lot of ways. Some ways it did, right? Finances and eating and things like that, right? That may have went to an extreme in some ways. But for the most part, just having that freedom and having that choice is extremely important to me. But I also want to lean on those other pieces, which is the safety and relationships, right? Because you're free to do whatever you want, but how do they impact other people? How do they impact yourself? Like I said, I want to feel safe in my body. I want to feel safe in my environment. So how are the choices I'm making with my freedom impacting me and my safety? How are the choices I'm making with my freedom impacting me and my relationships, right? And so that's the piece of it where I recognize that I want to be free and be able to make whatever choices align with me, but I also want to make sure that I am making the right choices for me and the life I want to live. And again, even that goes back to the intuition piece. How am I trusting my intuition and not just making these choices because I'm rebelling against like a strict childhood, right? How am I making these choices where I do have the freedom, but I know I can set myself up to be better or have more or whatever later on, right? So freedom is financial freedom, um, freedom in my choices, freedom in my career. If I decide tomorrow I don't want to be a therapist anymore and I want to go and dance wherever, I want to have that freedom, right? And so I think that that's extremely important. Like I said, changing my mind is extremely important to me. And so that's part of it as well, like the freedom to change my mind, the freedom to live the life that I want to live today. And it's okay if it changes tomorrow or next week or next year or 10 years from now. But today, this is what I want to do. And I'm living in my purpose and I'm living in who I am intentionally. And I'm living in the authentic version of me today. And that may change in a few weeks or a few years or whatever. So those are my values. So again, if you have the workbook, write down your values and define each of them. And that is extremely important. So the last part, and then do it in your journal if you just have a journal. The last part that we're going to talk about is vision. Vision, vision, vision. So visualizing your life and what you want your life to look like is the best way to know what goals you need to set, right? So we're not even at the goal setting part yet because we have to like create this version of or know who we are and who we want to be before we can jump into setting goals. So the vision is what you're going to have for homework, right? We're not going to sit here and do this whole time just because it could take a long time. But the visualizing your life is an extremely powerful tool to keep you focused and to make sure that when you are setting your goals, it is aligning with your goals, right? And so this is why people do vision boards. We have an option of doing both. If you have the journal, the vision, you can write it down. There's pages for you to write down your vision. If you are not a person that writes and you prefer to do a visual thing, you can do a digital vision board, or you can actually print it out and draw and write and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things I'm going to write down, just because it's on the top of my brain, and I'm going to actually put it in the vision board part. And the good thing with the digital one is that you can go online and pull pictures. And again, this is for you, so you don't have to worry about copyright or anything. But just go pull pictures and then throw it in here, add it to your digital vision board. It makes it a little bit easier versus printing it out and having an actual vision board. But if you have the vision board, if you do the vision board, or if you do, come on, the writing part, either one, you want to, once you're done with it, you want to have it somewhere where you can see it on a regular basis, preferably daily, right? So if you want to print that out, if you want to make this your screensaver on your computer or your phone or whatever, it's helpful for you to be able to see it on a regular basis so you can know where you're going. Okay. And then as far as, so what we're going to do is we're going to do two different visions, but actually we're going to do three. We're going to do three different visions. So the first vision that you're going to look at is, what do you want your life to look like 10 to 15 years from now? Right? I believe. Let me double check that yes, 10 to 15 years from now, right? The reason why we do 10 to 15 years to start with is because that's a long enough chunk of time where your brain can process, I can have a completely different life in 10 years. 10 years is a long time, right? Even though time goes quickly, let me just say. But 10 years is a long time. I could have a completely different life than I have right now. Sometimes when we start with next year and we say, oh, I want all of these things in my life, it becomes difficult because it's kind of like, oh, can I do that in a year? That's a lot. But if we look at 10 to 15 years, then you can give yourself permission to think big. Think big. Like, I want you to think about, nothing is blocking you. If everything goes as planned, if life is just as perfect as it can be for you, what does that look like? Right? I want you to really look at, and I don't want you to put like specifics on it, like, oh, I have 3 kids that are 15, 12, or whatever. You can say, I want 3 kids. You can have that, but I don't want you to have like specifics. I mean, if you already have kids, then yeah, you can say you can have a 15-year-old because you might already know what their age is going to be. But if you don't, just put like, be specific, but don't limit yourself, right? Because you just never know. And I know that sounds weird, but so if it's like, I'm married, 3 kids, I go on vacation 4 times a year. I'm traveling this type of way, first class. I am making this amount of money in my business. Plus, I have a full-time job. My business runs itself. I have 3 employees. Whatever. I spend my weekends doing this. I want you to really get deep into what your life looks like in 10 to 15 years, right? Because I want you to be able to envision, this is the most ideal, this is the most like perfect version of your life. Because again, sometimes your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and whatever your vision is, right? Whatever you decided to come up with in your head, it really doesn't. So if you tell your brain, 10 years I'm going to be a multimillionaire, your brain is like, all right, well, I guess we got to get on that, right? We're going to be a multimillionaire. 10 years I'm a multimillionaire. Your brain doesn't know the difference. It just assumes you know what you're talking about, and it's going to follow your lead, which is really important to know. If you struggle with anxiety, your brain will believe whatever you tell it to believe. It's not the other way around. But so it is extremely important that you set up your vision, especially the 10 to 15 one, to be the most ideal that you can think of. And so I'm going to just jot down a few things. I'm not going to do a lot because it does take time. And this is one of those things that I've started on a little bit, but I haven't fully done. So I wanted to, do it with you guys. So I'm just going to jot down a few words on the written part, and then I'm going to come back and do my digital one. And then I will share that next week when we do week 2 of accountability, because I want everybody to have theirs as well. So as far as my vision, I know that I want rest is a priority, because in 10 to 15 years, I would have been working for, let's see, at this point, I've been working for 25 years, 26 years of my life. So that means I would have been working for 36 to 41, 30, 35 to 40 years of my life. I would have been working. Rest is a priority. I don't see myself ever retiring, especially if I'm doing things like this where I get to just talk to people and help them out. I could see that being a part of my life, but rest will need to be a priority. And so that's one thing I definitely want to write down. And then some other ideas I have is travel and memories. So I'm just kind of keeping it light because I'm going to go through and flesh it out later. And parties with loved ones and friends and family. I love hosting. I love throwing a party. I love having an event. Um, Peace in all areas. Peace with my money, peace with my family, peace with my friends, peace with my body, peace with finance, everything, just peace. So I'm just gonna leave that there. I'm gonna flesh it out, right? Because like I said, I want you to think about what do your weekends look like? What do your days look like? How are you spending work days? How are you spending your non-work days? What is the year, right? So I'm gonna flesh all that out later. And so once you finish your 10 to 15 year, then we're gonna move into the next one, which will be your 3 to 5 year plan, right? So we got the big, huge goals. So okay, now I know my life is gonna be me traveling first class. My life is going to be me having multi-million multiple businesses that run themselves. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. I'm going to have scholarships to give back to communities. I'm going to be a mentor for new therapists that are coming up and need someone to like look at and know how to be a therapist that is helping communities and helping your people while also making money, right? I know that that is my vision. So now that I know that that's my vision, when I think about 3 to 5 years, what do I need my life to be? So let's say I probably need to be, and this is one of the things I don't talk about a lot, because I need to be a licensed, I need to be a supervisor, not licensed. I need to be a supervisor, LMFT and LPC supervisor. Because the easiest way to mentor a new therapist is to become a supervisor. So I need to be a supervisor. I need to have invested in 2 businesses and bought 1 real estate investment. I would like to do more than that, but we're just going to do 1. I would like to, what else? Again, I'm trying to keep this brief. I am traveling, definitely. Travel 2 to 5 years, 2 to 5 years. Let's say quarterly. Travel quarterly. Uh, and at least 1 time first class. I have traveled first class, can't go back. I mean, I'll go back because I can't afford to do it every time. But it is truly, especially on longer trips, if you can afford it, do it. It it makes your trip. My last time, well, actually, I've only traveled first class 1 time. And that was last year, and I'm so grateful I did it. I traveled to go visit my sister who lives in Spain. My mom ended up passing while I was there, and so I had to move my flight and come back. And I did. It's business class, but when you're going far, basically it's first class. They put you in first class. And I'm so grateful I did it coming. I mean, I had it because when I came back, even though my coming back experience wasn't that great, but I think it's because I was like literally, my mom had just passed and I was like rushing to get back to the States. Um, but I can't imagine being on a 9 to 13 hour flight in coach with people with it just and not to say that it's different, right? And I was able to like sit there, and if I was crying, I was crying because I had my own little cubby. People didn't see me crying. Like whatever I needed to do to like get myself together to process what was going on, I could do it in my own little space. And I'm so grateful that I was able to do that. And it just so happened that this was during the time when prices were still kind of down because of COVID. So that's the only reason why I was able to do it. But I'm so grateful. And that has become like a significant part of like my goals in life is to, if I am traveling more than like 5 or 6 hours, I need to be first class, really more than 4 hours, but I would like to be first class because it just really helps you with, when you go on a trip, you're good, but then have the vacation, have a break from your vacation, it's kind of stops that. So that is why I really, really, really value like first class for longer trips. I would like to be spending more time with my nieces because they'll actually be adults by this time. And so I would like to spend more time with them, just helping. I spend time with them now, but they'll have a lot more autonomy with their time. And so I would like to spend more time with them and, continuing to help guide them and mentor them and things like that. I would like to be uh, on a journey, well, not on a journey. I just want to have working out as a part of my life. Like, I do not like working out. I keep trying to trick my mind into believing I do, but I'm not a big fan of it. But I do feel like it's a necessary part of growing and aging, and just like making sure that your body continues to do what you need it to do as you grow and age. So I would like to be working out 3 times a week, preferably with a trainer, because I would just make it easier. Um, and possibly have like meal prep as well, done by somebody else. I would like to have a personal assistant at this point. So that's 2 to 5 years. I would like to have a personal assistant, because I am really big on outsourcing at this point. It took me a long time to get here. I've been doing everything DIY myself, but that is important to me. So yeah, so I'm just gonna stop there. 2 to 5 years. That's what that is. Oh, and then my biggest thing, like I said, is rest. But I want to get to a place where I had it in my head. I've done it. I said this before. I want to do my 12-week sprints with 2-week recovery. So if you are still in this accountability group in 2 to 5 years, it might look a little different. Where we do, because of what I plan to do. I want to do a 12-week sprint, and then I want to have 2 weeks of nothing, right? So 12 weeks of me hitting my goals, 12 weeks of me doing what I need to do, and then 2 weeks of recovery, a week on vacation, a week just kind of chilling, in everyday life. Yeah, continuing to clean and do whatever I need to do for my normal life, but just like of relaxing, and then jumping back into those 12 weeks of recovery. And I also, the deep work. I plan to start that this year, but the deep work, meaning I'm setting aside time to do 4 hours of like focusing on one topic, one thing, and just doing a lot of deep work around it. So deep work, let's say 1 time per month at least. Actually, 1 time per week. In 2 to 5 years, yeah, we're gonna have that at 1 time per week. Now we're gonna do 1 time a month. Okay, so same thing. You can do wording or vision, and then we're gonna do our last vision. Oh, okay, no, sorry. So that's what we're doing. We're doing our 10 to 15 year vision, and then we're doing our 2 to 5 year vision. Those are the two that we're doing. I was confused. We are going to next time do our blocks, and then we'll do our 1 year, which is we're not going to do the vision, but we're just going to do goals. So right. So now that you have a vision for your life, from 10 to 15 years, and then you scale back to 2 to 5 years. Now you can use the goals that you have for this year to figure out what does it look like for me to get to my 2 to 5 year goals, right? So that's the whole point of doing the vision. So we're not just looking at this year, because this year is when we're working, right? So we don't want to just look at it in this like very micro way. We want to be able to say overall, like I think it's macro and macro, how am I um how am I moving in the direction I want to move into, right? So we have our 10 to 15 year. That is the big one. That's ideal. Life is going to be just perfect, exactly what I want it to be. Oh, actually, sorry, I was about to write something else down that just crossed my mind as I was talking. So we're going to have that available, but then, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna write it down, but this is actually going to be a this year goal. But so I want to have zero personal debt, which I've done before, but actually, I want, yeah, zero personal debt. This includes student loans. That's what I have to put down, because I've had zero personal debt, but student loans still be there. So that is on my 2 to 5 year plan as well. Is zero personal debt. So as I am. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to focus your energy on creating your vision, right? Your 10 to 15 year vision and 2 to 5 vision. That's it. That's the homework. Get through all of it, right? Do your intentions, do your values, and do your vision. When we come back next week, we will have our visions done for future. And then what we'll tap into is like what blocks are coming up, right? Because oftentimes, like when we dream and we write it down, it's all good. And then we start to sit there and look at it, it's like, how am I going to get this? I've never had anybody in my family do this. I don't know if I really can write those negative thoughts, those blocks start to come up, right? And so that's why I want to do the vision first this week, so that you can spend some time sitting with it, and then next week we can see like what comes up for you? What blocks do you have that could be impacting whether or not you are able to meet your goals, right? So we're going to talk about the blocks, and the blocks we're going to talk about throughout this whole process, because I understand sometimes it's not until you're already in it that you can start to recognize, oh, this is a block. But we want to get a head start. We want to start to be preemptive and say, I know these are some of the things that come up for me when I've tried to meet my goals before. So that is why I struggle. Okay. So that is it, guys. This is a long one. I'm not gonna edit it. I'm just gonna cut off that beginning and that end, but all the little stumbles in between. That is why we're here. This is an accountability group. It's gonna be raw and all of that. So get your intentions done, get your values done, and get your vision done this week. And then next week we will move into blocks and getting our goals, setting up our goals for the year. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to, if you're not a part of the accountability group and you're just watching this on YouTube, click the link. If you made it to this part, click the link to join the accountability group, as well as subscribe to the channel. You know, if you made it this far, that means you like some of the stuff I'm saying. And again, it really helps when people subscribe. Also, if you want the workbook, that link is in the description box as well. Again, just $5 for now. And so this is because I really want people to get this information, and I want people to get to their goals. And I want to be able to build this community. So I think that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. That's all. Bye.